Hello and welcome to the 47th episode of Rambling Weekly. This episode, we're going to revisit a topic that we kind of talked a little bit about in the 18th episode, The Curious Case of Fry and the Ship of Theseus. We're going to kind of dive into that, but skirt into, what may be the long-term or lingering effects of words we use. Those wonderful, wonderful things we call words. Take a break and we'll be back. Welcome back. I kind of noticed I've been quite lacking in my appreciation and sharing of Dragon Quest music. So, what better way to rectify it than with at least one of the soundtracks that I have, which is the Dragon Quest IV Symphonic Suite. And that first one is Overture. And it honestly is one of those tunes that it doesn't matter when I hear it. It makes me feel heroic. Yeah, let's go on an adventure. It's such a great tune, and every time I hear it when I start a new game, I am like, yeah, this is going to be fun. This is going to be enjoyable. Now, I don't know how that's going to now go as Sugiyama's passed. I'm curious to see if they try to enlist somebody who will keep in line with a lot of that. We'll see how it goes, especially with whenever this next one gets announced and ready for release, how dark it may end up being. I'm very curious because Yuji Horii has always at least pivoted. There have been leanings of dark qualities and situations, but it's always been softened by either the artistic approach or just it's some of the humor and stuff. But I really like it because what it does is it creates this great juxtaposition. It makes it feel more lived in. It's not just, everything is dour, everybody is sad, everybody hates things, and there's no chance of any sort of mirth or warmth or jovial attitudes even in the dark, oppressive situation sort of thing. I appreciate that because it can be silly and it can soften that edge, like I said, but in the same hand, I think it helps make it more pronounced and can hit a lot harder. There were some ones in Dragon Quest VII I remember just wow, that one's the one with the robot or the animatronic, but we'll just go with robot. It's a robot, where it sticks around, but then after so long, it kind of rusts out and stuff. Those were pretty touching stories. Anyways, how are you all doing today? Hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty good. It's been a nice, relaxing day. Yesterday, just because in the sense of when I'm recording this, yesterday I worked, and I felt like I was getting my butt kicked. I kind of hurt my hand a little bit, not like anything major or permanent, just kind of like a little bit of a bruise. That tweaked my shoulder a little bit, tweaked my ankle. It's just I got old all in one day, and I'm like, ah. After a little bit of rest, feeling pretty good so far today. So that's at least reassuring, nothing lingering and that sort of thing. So I've been behaving myself and getting through more review stuff. I just this way Madness Lies, I've released that. I've got another one coming out next week. It'll be about Doom 64, talking about that because I like myself some Doom 64. But I've been getting into a good habit of having stuff a bit more regularly, and hopefully I can keep that going. I know I was talking with Sushi B, so this will be a bit redundant for him whenever he does get to listen to this, but I think I've probably mentioned it on here before. I certainly march to my own beat kind of thing, because I think it is easy to just work the algorithm to your advantage to be like, oh yes, I am going to make at least a semi popular channel by, you can do it a few different ways, right? One is by latching on to the most current interesting thing. So it's for example, East 10 just got announced, so I can make videos about talking about East 10 and stuff and ride that train and get those kind of views and stuff like that. And or Resident Evil 4 remake, say it gets released in February or whatever. It's like, then I'll spend January making a bunch of Resident Evil content and that sort of thing, or do speculation videos. The one that I really can't stand, and I know I mentioned it before in a different I think it was like episode 41 or something. Let me see. I got the playlist up somewhere. Where are you at? Rambling Weekly playlist. The Summoning Knights Gallant, the episode 40, the 41st episode. Kind of similar, where people, like, recent thing comes out and they just don't like it for whatever reason, but then they've got to like comment on it and everything like that, and it just, I don't know. I think it is, and I kind of wanted to put it into its own sort of topic at some point. It seems like we have a bad habit as a society to really weigh in favor of the response to something. You see it a lot in like humor, little meme images and stuff like that. And yeah, certainly it can be funny. Like I can think of times where when I was younger, I would used to drive and then have like just stupidest giant smile on my face and just driving, and it cracks me up thinking about it to this day, because it's just like I put myself in like the other driver's shoes, and if they see that, you're like, what is wrong with this guy? And it's just funny to me. It's a funny thing. That's a little bit different, I guess. A lot of times, either in meme images or you see it a lot with TikTok and shorts or little snippets that get a lot of views and stuff, is that something is presented, but then it's the way that the reaction is handled, that it's like, oh, this is so hilarious, and a lot of times it's undercutting stuff, and it's just like, oh, okay. What I think it does, though, is it trains people to keep their eye on the reaction, as opposed to become more reactionary and being more, I'd rather be reactionary than the one pushing forward kind of thing. Because if I'm reactionary, I get to be the one that's in the driver's seat to a degree. Like, I may not be driving it, but, I can steer it how I want. And that's not necessarily true, but I think that's what people tend to think, is that they have that, and it's, no, because, once somebody sets something in motion, the reactionary thing happens, but then there's also the chance of something else reactionary happening, and and all that sort of, I don't know where I'm going with that. Anyways, where I was getting at with all of that was that, I have fun with the channel, and, I'm just going to make stuff that I want to make, and I'm not going to be like, oh, well, there's I don't know, there's a new Trails game, I'm going to make a Trails video, blah. I don't like that. I'd rather just march to my own beat, as syncopated or offbeat as that may be. What else is going on? Not a whole bunch, prepping for Christmas and all that sort of fun stuff. That's been going on. Keeping with working. It hasn't really been like wintry. It's starting to dip into being chillier, but there was like a little stretch where there was a little snow. But I guess depending on how these forecasts go, there might be a good chance for a white Christmas coming. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be pretty nice. Now also, I had an idea for something. I don't know if I'll end up doing it, but something I've wanted to do for a while that I've just partially not really known how to approach going about doing it to some degree, is I would like to, at some point, it would have to be, I'd probably do it purposely on a different channel, like make a different channel for it, because it would be like something that's not what my stuff generally is, like Rambling Weekly, the Taylor Talk thing. What I've turned the channel into after the whole Gaijin gaming thing, it is more, Power On podcast stuff, Taylor Talks, Rambling Weekly, and streaming if I ever do that. I want to go around to just different places and just kind of have open, not like interviews, but like open chats with people. And just in the sense of letting people be able to, it's opening weird doors at that point, because, let people be people, but then, once somebody realizes that there's like a camera, sometimes it feels like something goes off in the brain and it switches into, let's go into goober mode, and then that tends to happen, which you're kind of like, oh, okay, turn that down. Or you get like the really weird ones where you're just like, oh, okay, all right. in one hand, it would be really neat to just go to different places and just like chit chat with people, to be like kind of similar to what I did with a previous episode that I still want to do more on that topic of like people's dreams and stuff like that. Because this will lead into the topic for today. Is not necessarily in that I can believe in the, oh, if you do this, you can will it into existence. Even though I have had the fortunate luck of, oh, I want to do this, or I would like for this to happen, and pushed to the best of my abilities for it to happen, and it has come and become a reality. And of course, intentions and realities like don't blend 100% of the way, so there's always going to be something a little bit different often and whatnot. What I guess I'm getting at is that a mindset is very important. And being positive, so of course there's that concern that, and I get it, the dislike of the saccharine sweet, super Genki, yeah, oh, ha, 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 maybe not like that, just the overly positive to where it feels like they're masking something. But I think there's a difference between that versus having a more positive mindset, and I think that's important, and that's what I would like to explore, because it feels like there is this heavy weight, or to borrow a word from the former president Jimmy Carter, that there is a malaise across the country, and it feels like we've been kind of stuck in this rut for quite a while. To a degree, we might be like the casino stage of Sonic, where you have to fight Robotnik and you're kind of like swinging back and forth in the little what the heck is that thing called, like the pinball machine thing. It kind of feels like we're in a rut that we just can't get out of in that, and we're just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that's why I want to explore and talk with all different sorts of people about like their dreams and stuff, because I think that's important to not only hear from people who have dreams, but also that, I don't know, I always feel that dreaming is really important, and if other people share their dreams, perhaps it can rekindle dreams for other people. Because I think what ends up happening, particularly with young people, is that they have these dreams, but through no fault of their own and no fault necessarily of other people, either this push and pull of their peers, themselves, the proximity, the people in their proximity, the society, social, what have you, all these different factors that pull those dreams apart, and then the dream dies, and then there's just bleh. Kind of similar to what I had mentioned in I think it was episode 43 of like Our Unspoken Duty, is that hope's very important. And I think going into that and talking about dreams, and if anything, it is a light in the dark to help guide. And in the sense of there's a song called The Mary Ellen Carter, that odd tangent, but this song helped somebody who was shipwrecked. I think it was like in 1975 or something. They were in a shipwreck and they survived and like overnight, holding on to a piece of the ship as it's dealing with like the storm that came through, and it's like in November or December, and like cold waters, these crazy waves and everything. The song instilled this bit of hope, because there's a part in it where it's like rise again, rise again. And he would always sing that part whenever he like crested over the waves, just to kind of give him that, just to fortify the spirits and to keep moving on. Or I think what ends up happening with young people is that they have all these dreams, they have all these different like things going on, and all, like everything's fresh and new and exciting, and they can't really focus. And then when they do focus, something may happen to kind of just like either stop it, or maybe they get bored and then kind of don't realize that having ideas and stuff are an interesting thing, but the spontaneity of creativity is just that. It's a quick burst, but then you have to have that staying power. And generally, for whatever reason, maybe just a human quality, because we just don't conceptualize well the great expanse of time. We seem to really, really try to focus it down. It's like, oh, it's just a month. Oh, it's just a year. And it's like, that's a long time. That's 365 days there in that year. 366 on the leap year. Haha. We don't ever really take it like that. So it's that staying power isn't there. And unfortunately, we tend to falter a lot. Anyways, that was I would like to do something kind of covering that sort of thing, and going around to all like bunch of different towns and cities and stuff, and having people talk about their dreams and getting excited and trying to like motivate in a way to be like, yeah, like go for it. Like don't unless it's like something heinous, go for your dreams kind of thing. Anyways, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to drink some more because I'm like, my throat is dying. So I'm going to take a break, and then we'll come back and talk about the actual topic at hand. So stick around. Welcome back. That tune there is Homeland and Wagon Wheels March, because I think it's like half that and then, half the other. But you're only getting the first part, sorry. Not playing the whole song. I really don't have a good way of being like, oh, how much of the song should I play? I honestly will I'll listen to it and then kind of hit to a point I'm like, this is good enough. Sometimes it's kind of quick. Sometimes it's a little bit longer. And sometimes I'm just like, whatever. Anyways, I kind of thought about it for a moment. Not that I actually went back through the break on it. I might have misspoken slightly. I know I've talked with David about the concept about it. I don't know. I think we still did it to some degree with The Curious Case of Fry and the Ship of Theseus, though I know we've talked about it. I know I've mentioned it here in Rambling Weekly. For example, like with the word love, how it has been bastardized to this bad sense of being all about, well, when you think of love is more of the lustful intent and more of just the physical act of sex and that sort of thing, as opposed to showing that you care for somebody, whether that's caring in the sense of a fostering sense or protective sense, or even like to treat people like plants, to care for and to provide them what they need to grow, kind of thing. And I think that to me is more similarly like, you don't keep the caged bird caged, you let them go, you let them free, kind of thing, to a similar degree. But you gotta give them room for growth. And that's why once again, sorry Sushi B, I know we just talked about this, but when it comes to caring for people or being friends with people, I'm very much in the mindset that I prefer people to call me out on my nonsense or point out, hey dude, what are you doing? I know David and good friend Arbel, who I still really need to get on this podcast. He has, not necessarily through anybody's fault, he's been super busy, and but we planned a topic, we just hadn't gotten back to it yet. I remember they both were like concerned for me and going, dude, what's your problem? Yeah, and in a certain degree I did kind of get myself a bit haggard and everything. You can see it in old videos when I was writing Sudraba, just how not healthy I was looking, we'll say. To me, that's somebody who cares. That's somebody like those are good, those good great friends that will point out those things, to be like, hey, what are you doing, you goof? Not only to call out, but to challenge. And certainly that can be a precarious line to walk. It is tough to challenge, but still not. Well, part of it's also, hey, do you go too far and challenge constantly to where it's just nothing but like an aggressive abrasion or what have you? This gets me into the weirdness of words, and we've seen this for a while now, where people are like, yes, slay queen, or they call, people king and whatnot. I don't like it. I really don't like it. Not just because I'm an old fogey. To me, strikes a bad balance, because words, for lack of a better way to put it, in such an esoteric kind of sense, but there is a magic to words. Part of it is due to our perception, due to our our conceptualizing idea of what a word means. You can spew out some pretty heinous words, and very quickly, that'll get you castigated as a complete jerk. Not only that, but it will generally excite some sort of response out of people. Now, if I refer to people that I am in contact with constantly, or, say coworkers or just friends in general and stuff, that I'm like, I'm calling them king and queen, what that's doing, sure, they are terms of endearment, kind of similarly to calling somebody your bro or your sis. Even the bro and sis one's still, like, it's kind of similar to like in the early aughts when everybody was calling each other dog. Sup, dog? Like the king route is the same sort of reflection, but just in a different angle, where it's a term of endearment. However, we have an idea of what royalty is. And I think, as hard as we may try, that there is always that subconscious undercurrent that we fully cannot combat, like, you can only plug the dam, the dike, whatever, it's got a whole bunch of holes in it. You can only plug it up so much before it still leaks through. Like, it's just going to happen. And I think through consistent use of those things, what ends up happening is that there is we have an idea of what royalty acts like or what is expected for them kind of thing. And I think that starts to modify people's behaviors, whether for better or worse. Personally, when I think of royalty, I have a lot of negative connotations to it. Not always, but there's always the tinge of arrogance. It is a very rare, and let me just go with very rare thing for there to be the quote-unquote philosopher king or philosopher queen or whatever to guide us benevolently through their reign. Most times, what's the Spider-Man quote from Uncle Ben there? You gotta use power responsibly kind of thing. That doesn't seem to be the case. Absolute power corrupts absolutely kind of thing. Look at when you accidentally use a word that is not really expected in a situation with somebody. Say you call somebody by the wrong name. Now, in certain situations, that could be a really bad thing. In other situations, it just could be a laugh of just like, ah, ha, 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 ha. You two look nothing alike. Blah, 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 blah. Because it's such an abrasive, such a strong break from the normalcy of that thing, it creates this sort of reaction. And it's a little bit more prominent. So when you have all these different kind of words, and then if you call somebody a friend who's not really a friend, I think there's that, if somebody's being maybe a bit more, for lack of a better phrase, magnanimous or just gracious, they'll let it slide kind of thing. They'll just be like, oh, weird, but okay, yeah. For better and for worse, right? Because then it's on the speaker's side, it creates this true to them but false in reality idea that they are friends. Personally, I think these sorts of things are really, really, not that they're damaging, but just concerning, because we don't take into consideration what those sorts of things can do. Of course, we can't be overly cautious to where we're very deliberate in the words we choose. Otherwise, everything will screech to a halt. I know just from how I am, I can kind of be a little flat-footed when it comes to conversational stuff. Partially because I know I can put my foot in my mouth despite being not that flexible. It is quite the feat that I'm just like, wow, what are you doing, Taylor? Why do you do these things? Why do you say these things? What is it in your brain that goes, yes, this is the proper dialogue choice to take. The 3% success rate one. Go for that one. I'm just that dumb. There's no other way to put it. I am not quite gifted with the gab to be like, might be a smarter thing to shelve that and just go. No. Cut the Gordian knot. Go straight through. Whatever. But that's just kind of how I am. I know people that I've worked with have friends have mentioned that yeah, it's really weird because you're really warm, you're nice and friendly and stuff, but there's just times where you just say something and it's like, what, why, what is, and I'm like, yeah, I imagine it's just because part of, I know a big reason why for me is because that's the thick skin that I developed because of getting picked on as a kid, because from surgeries and stuff and having to wear the bubble gauze on my ear and everything. That's what I did. I eventually got to the point it's like, I cannot have the words of people that I don't respect, I don't appreciate, I don't like. I cannot have the words of these people affecting my attitude or my behavior or my feelings or just my life. It's one thing if there's like malicious intent in the sense to do immediate physical harm, but there's another thing when it's just there to be like malicious intent to do psychological scarring and prolonged damage. You have to, or at least I had to put up the armor to be like, hey, I'm not going to allow these words to do that to me. And maybe that's why I get concerned when I see these or hear these sorts of things and hear how people are with each other. Similarly with just the language we use. I always like to bring up that quote from Lichtenstein about the limits of my language means the limits of my world. I would add to that, as arrogantly egotistical as I can, to a quote from some random philosopher from 100 plus years ago. that what words you use, how you use them, the intonation, all that sort of fun stuff, those are the colors and styles that you paint the world that you're in, right? Like, to borrow Pocahontas, the colors of the wind. That's the wind is the words you're speaking, and the colors the way you're going about doing it. And what words they are. And I think that's important. I cannot stress enough how necessary it is that to pivot away from giving that, because if you refer to somebody else as like king or queen, not only are you elevating them, but you're making yourself subservient to them, kind of thing. It isn't like you get to ride on the coattails at the court of the person you're referring to as king. There is an odd sort of thing, it's like with, say, Japanese or something, the humble form part of the Japanese language. You are humbling yourself by lowering yourself. Or, you can make honorifics for making people more stately, more supreme kind of thing. And I think that bleeds into, that eventually starts to morph a mentality, whether you like it or not. I really think that it plants these seeds. And it's one of those things that's insidious enough that you don't see it until it's far too late to be able to just, maybe not far too late, but you don't see it until it's like the fruit's been born. Whatever fruit that tree has to bear, surprise! And you're like, oh, great, cool, wonderful. I'm not appreciating this whatsoever. And then you either, it isn't until you take a bite of that fruit and you realize how bitter it is, or what, that you're like, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with the taste. I don't know. That's where I really think people should be a bit more methodical in those words. And I say that as somebody who, like I said before, puts his foot in his mouth all the time. I do it all the time. And I'm just like, well, that is just how I am. And I'm like, wow, I could be so much better, in a better like position socially with a good deal of people. Not that like, saying like horrible, heinous things, but just dumb things where it's like, why would you say that? I thought a little bit better of you, and now I think so poorly of you because you say so stupid things. Or perhaps that's my way of lowering the bar of expectations when people talk to me. I don't know. It's like, it's just this goofball. What does the goofy goober have to say? Whatever. Yeah, that is what I wanted to talk about a little bit for today. For a topic was the insidious nature of words. Dun dun dun. Da 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 da. And how they conceptualize into attitudes, how they can morph your frame of mind, your attitude, your actions by the very fabric of the words. Anyways, yeah, that's what I got. We're going to take a break, and we'll come back for the quote, and then we'll be on our merry way. So stick around. Welcome back. That tune there's Frightening Dungeons, Cursed Towers, or Cursed Towers. It's Drag Quest music. It's got a playful, adventurous tune to it. Sometimes mysterious and spooky. I like it. I like it a good deal. What quote today? Well, I don't know. I went with something from Xenogears because why not? I know probably the quote that always, maybe the most, I don't know. There's two that I can think of. One, a silly one, and that's because I am a man of the sea or whatever. Just because of the theatrics of it, the dramatization of it. But the other one's the Satan Uzuki one. That's one about music that I know a lot of people would probably know. This one, however, I'm going to turn a little sideways. We're going to go with a quote from Wise Man, and that is, "You appear to be looking forward, but in reality, you're only looking downward. You're only looking at yourself. Like that, you will find nothing." And I feel like that's Sorry once again, Mr. Sushi B. I feel like that is the unfortunate place we find ourselves a lot of times. Maybe not individually, but at least societally. There's a lot of navel gazing, a lot of I'm looking at myself. A lot of the narcissistic behaviors and tendencies to either self-aggrandize, or when that self-aggrandizement hasn't been actualized, turning into petty resentment or even vicious, outwardly anger. And I think that's the problem, is that there's too much inwardly looking, and at a certain point you've got to look outwardly, whether that's to enjoy all of that which you are a part of, or to maybe understand a bit better your place in life, right? We have this bad habit of wanting to try to be the hero, be more than what we think we are, and people don't want to feel like they're a quote-unquote NPC or whatever kind of nonsense, but I think that's sort of skirting the point, or just completely missing it. It isn't that, you're an NPC because you were doing something more mundane. It is that you don't learn to appreciate what you are doing in that mundanity. And not only that, you don't build any sort of ability or understanding that, you take the lessons that you learn from that, the habits that you learn from that, and extrapolate them to other aspects of life. And you can't really do that if all you're doing is looking at yourself, looking downward, because if you only look within yourself, there's no way to understand or figure out a way to kind of go beyond, a la Goku Super Saiyan 3. To go that level beyond and shout for 5 minutes. But that is it for this episode. Thanks for listening. I hope your weekday, your week, weekend, everything in between is enjoyable, and you get something good out of it. And hopefully nothing bad comes of it. Hopefully it's just a good time. That's right. Good times. The song to play out to is, I had to save this for the end. It's Battle for the Glory. Come on now. I mean, 4 may not be my favorite, but there are certainly good tunes out of it. So that is it for me. Once again, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next week. Take care.